Victoria Rader, thank you so much for being on the Positioning to Profit podcast. It is such an honor and a privilege to have you here because I believe that we are going to dazzle the audience with what you have. Because I believe before we hit the record button, that this conversation is very much needed in this time. But first, welcome to the podcast.
Hattie, thank you so much. I do want to echo that. I think we will all profit in the most incredible ways, just opening up to whatever is going to come for each one of us. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a great pleasure. So tell the audience a little bit about you. And I understand that you grew up in the Ukraine, which again, very timely with everything happening. How did growing up in the Ukraine prepare you for your career today?
Remarkably so, the country that Ukraine was a part of at that time was the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union is echoed a little bit in the Russian politics today, which is aggressive and no freedom. So you could not make choices. You really could not make choices. And simple stuff. At school, you could choose which classes to take. You had a curriculum. You couldn't leave the country and travel because not only you would have to have an entry visa, you had to have an exit visa. And so in so many ways, you were completely stripped from freedoms that we take for granted. I live in the US now, we take for granted. But the immense gift that it has given me was the realization that no matter what the circumstances were, the world inside was untouchable. And that the true freedom was born and was protected within. And once it became a sacred ground of creation, I, in utter amazement, watched literally the walls crumble, the Iron Curtain fall, the country fall apart, and the little 11-year-old girl who dreamed to see her countries is now an almost 50-year-old woman who has been to 40 of them. And I know it's possible for me, regardless of the politics, the suffocation of the country, and I know it's possible for anybody in whatever prison of circumstance they find themselves to be right now.
Oh my gosh, I get chills thinking about it. And I actually went on your website, and do I have this right? You had peace, purpose, and prosperity,
Yes.
which prosperity is one of my core values. And tell me more about that, because I feel like in that one statement that you said at the beginning, just surrendering almost, right? Surrendering. And are peace, purpose, and prosperity how you live? Are these your core values? What is important to you about those three words?
Just very deep and beautiful because for the longest time, I found myself looking for purpose in life and knocking my head on a lot of walls and feeling, oh my gosh, I am born to do more and I don't know what the heck it is. And I'm frustrated and flustered. And I know so many people relate to that. And then I made a choice. I made a choice. I'm going to surrender to divine love. I'm going to first love the scared part of who I am. I'm going to just give her love so that the sacred part of me can just be peaceful. I just found peace not having what I believed was a greater purpose. And when I found the peace with just being, I realized the purpose for all of us daily was finding one person to love from the place of I'm enough peace. And by serving that one person at a time, a greater purpose was simply uncovered once again in the most miraculous way. And what I found is that the prosperity then followed the path of peace and purpose as a side effect. Now, I've made a lot of money and I've lost a lot of money. That's not the prosperity I'm talking about. The true, genuine, foundation based, lasting prosperity came as a result from first peace and then purpose as a service, and then discovery of the purpose, and then being financially and otherwise supported on that purpose. What comes through me right now is that our prosperity divinely will only support the purpose we're committed to right now. So
Oh, that's so beautiful. So I also believe that is really timely with everything happening, like we talked about in the economy. And so when you're looking at, because I feel like we both work in what we love, that is so obvious. And I love what I get to do every single day. To me, Monday's the same as Sunday as Saturday. And it doesn't matter, right? I'm always just thinking of what I do and just how blessed I am and how thankful I am. And I never take that for granted because of the job that I used to have. And while it provided, it wasn't fulfilling. So I am very much an advocate for what you're talking about in terms of finding that purpose, is how you can be of service to others. And in that comes a prosperity. So, what would you say to the coach or service provider or somebody that is looking to build their business as an entrepreneur, and they say, okay, I got it, I do feel like I'm passionate about what I do, and I am hearing you, Victoria, but what about what's going on in the economy? Because guess what, my bank account is not showing what you're talking about. What would you say? Because that's a common thing I hear.
The default, I've said this quote so many times, I've quoted myself so many times that I go to it, it's on my site. Notice what you notice because what you notice is what you create. So the first point of that is awareness of what you're noticing. Because if for most of us, there will be times in our life of experiential desperation, I call it, when practically we're desperate. And it is at those moments that it's so important to acknowledge it and to turn your back on it. Because if we keep acknowledging and validating, it will keep draining us and it will keep creating more of it. So, knowing that, wait a minute, I have this idea, I have no way to financially implement it, my bank accounts are drained, you really have to hit a pause button and say, what is the one thing that is beautifully working for me in my life right now? The universe answers the question we ask. Because I promise, no matter how hard your life is, there's this one thing that is already working for you beautifully. Maybe not professionally, but ask that question. What is the one thing that is working beautifully for me right now? Is it your health? Is it your kid? Is it your dog? What is the one thing? And sit with that question until you're so overwhelmed with the miracle and the gratitude for just the one thing that is working for you. And then you ask the next question. How could I take this energy into my business? It's a powerful question. How can I take the energy of gratitude for the miracle having happened into my business? And you sit in that pondering, and I promise you, you will receive an answer. When you receive an answer, act on it immediately. And if it's an answer is huge, you ask the next question. Asking you shall receive is not about ordering stuff, it's about asking the right question. So if you receive an answer, the question will be, what's the first step I can take today towards this solution and act?
That is paramount. And I want to really repeat that so people can hear, because how often do we overthink or we negate or be like, oh, I'll get to it later, or maybe, yeah, but. And I always say, I'm like, we want to banish the but, banish the excuses. Banish the excuses, because that is the thing that keeps you in where you are. And so if you're asking for the guidance and then you're negating the guidance, what do you think is going to happen? So I couldn't agree more. That is something that I see all too often. And I really want to go into this whole process of, all right, what are the, so if we take that whole sequence that you talked about and being aware of what is possible when you choose to be in gratitude and looking at things for what you have, and then saying, okay, well, what action can I take, etc. What about the opposite? What is a subconscious pattern that maybe is so sneaky that we're not even aware of, that is really depleting our energy or not allowing us to be in peace? And I know you, as an expert, what advice do you have there? Because we're so in it that we don't see the damage it's causing.
I think for most of us, if not all of us, it's not a question that prosperity is possible. That the sabotaging voice just says, just not for me. And so what I've seen is a lot of work is done on subconscious to say, oh, it's possible. But it is that phrase, for me, for me. And in development of either finances or business, there are stages of development. There's survival, there's stability, there's success, and there's significance. And so when I talk about awareness, the very first point is to be aware where you are. And the second point is to understand that within the universal laws of growth, you have to have a strategy to arrive at the next level without bypassing it. Because what I see quite often is people getting trapped in a promise of undeliverable. They're in survival, but they're creating a vision for significance. And there is a subconscious saboteur that says, you're not equipped, you have not formed the neural receptors in your brain. A child will need to crawl, will need to stumble before they run. We mumble before we speak. We hit the tree before we drive. As human being, as divine being in this physical experience, we go through levels of progression. And so the first step is, where am I? Let's say financially, where am I financially? I'm in survival. So maybe $100,000 a year is a significance goal. And my survival is, what are my fixed expenses and what are my flexible expenses? Wait, to be in survival, I only need to make 4 grand, not 25, 4 grand to be in stability. So from survival to stability, you look at the change of habits. It is from stability to success that you look at the change of mindset. And it is from success to significance that you look at the change of heart. And I'm a heart-centered person. But if you don't have a habit that gets you out of bed, you can talk about the heart change, but it will simply go against the universal law. What's a habit that can get you out of bed? And maybe that habit is, put your hand on the heart and you say, I'm just strong enough to get out of bed. You're not affirming I'm a money magnet. You're not affirming I'm here to change the world. You're saying, I know I'm strong enough to get out of bed. You know why? Because yesterday I did, or a month ago I did. And when you're out of bed, you're going to say, I'm just strong enough to come up with one action step. That affirmation, I'm just strong enough for this one thing, will get you out of survival and into stability.
So let me ask you a question, Victoria. As CEO of your business, what's the title that you use to describe what you do?
Possibility coach, just
That's
making it possible for you.
excellent. I
That
know.
was born that
Yeah,
was
no,
born in
please.
a very unique way. I had a branding coach that about a year and a half, 2 years ago said, you do so much, but you don't have a title. I'm like, just help people. She says, yeah, that ain't gonna fly. So I actually asked my clients and I said, hey guys, when you refer me out, what do you tell people that I
Mhm.
do? And that was the overwhelming response. They didn't think it was possible for me. And now it is. So I owe this title to my clients.
I love it because from a positioning and differentiation standpoint, that clearly makes you different, right? And so tell me a story about a client of yours, maybe where they were, because I always think that these stories that we share about our clients allows us to see what's possible for ourselves in a state where maybe we're stuck or we're not seeing that the possibility coach, how they can help. So I'd love to hear a transformative story of somebody that you've helped to see what's possible.
The person that comes to mind is actually a person whose name I can share. There are clients that whose stories are private, and there are those that give us permission to share. And so this particular client's name is Irina Pevgonin. And Irina Pevgonin is my client from Finland. And I've started working with her about 2.5, not quite 3 years ago. And at a time when I started working with her, it was not possible for her to leave her room. She had a very severe agoraphobia. She did not drive. She could not leave the room. She had physical restrictions, emotional restrictions, and mental restrictions. And so by using this very small structure of one tiny thing a day, that I'm just strong enough to do this one tiny thing a day, as of today, she is a partner in one business that actually ironically has to do with deliveries and transportation. And as of today, she has just registered her second business, which will be a bakery, which is her dream. And
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
and she's been doing it in quote unquote the worst possible economic climate. So let's just say the worst possible economic climate is a hidden possibility for unrealized prosperity. So we're all so grateful for this hidden possibility of unrealized prosperity. One question a day, one tiny step a day.
I love that. And how do you see your business evolving as a possibility coach when you look at your business in the next 3 to 5 years?
I am very blessed now to have nourished and grown through working with enough clients who've now become my team of coaches and who are so excited about what simplicity of possibility has done for them that they're sharing the message in different venues. Each one of the coaches, we're co-creating a special program or special product for them. I think what I see for my company is just more miracles coming. We plan minimally and we're open to receive abundantly. And it's been a gorgeous motto for my team. We just do the one little thing a day. I promise it's possible to be a multi-million dollar business with one little tiny thing a day.
I love that. That's so important to see because a lot of times we're building our businesses and we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. And we get bogged down in all, oh, I got to do. And it just seems like Mount Everest in terms of effort. And the one thing I quote, just like you have your quotes that your people hear all the time, mine is I heard from an early mentor of mine. He said, nobody is ever consistent, ever. And the people that are consistent are the ones that win. And so it's no different if you're thinking about building a six pack in your right? Or your muscles or your business or whatever it is that you're doing, your artistry. There's something to be said about just taking that action every single day that seems almost mundane and boring, yet
Mhm.
that is what it takes. What's your perspective on that?
I think I try to always use our weakness as our strength. And so this is so beautiful that we have this conversation because it's very aligned. Because I had a conversation with a client who said exactly that. I'm so inconsistent. And I said, aren't you so excited that you're so consistent at being inconsistent? That's one way to look at it. So
Yeah.
we already have the receptors for quitting. So now let's quit quitting. Let's use what we've got for us. And then another thing to look at is that all of us have consistency periods. Whatever holiday you celebrate, if you do religiously, whether it is Christmas or Hanukkah or your birthday, right? Find something. Wait a minute, I'm consistent. Once a year, I've done that. Bathroom, you're consistent at that. So, as ironic as it sounds, you start building consistency through habit stacking by attaching a new skill, sandwiching it between the two. So, when I say the power question that I say, and I'll give that as a quick bonus, I think people will use so much. It doesn't matter where in the year you are. You want to know what your annual theme is. What is my theme for the year? Whatever it is you decided. Then at the beginning of each month, you want to ask, what is the theme for this month to support my theme for the year? And then the third question, the one we're going to squeeze in between your bathroom and your brushing teeth, because you have no excuse. You've stuck it into your consistent performance in the bathroom. You're going to say, what is one action I am to take or one decision I am to make today to support my theme of the month? Is the most profound, simple way to create a year of miracles.
Oh, I love
And
that.
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it's taking the big thing and chunking it down to the daily thing that you're focused on. It's amazing what happens when we focus. And I love that you said you've had the habit of right not being consistent. Let's shut that off and be consistent. It's just, it's almost, that's so logical, right? But people don't see just how simple it can be when you break it down in that way. So thank you for sharing that. That's really brilliant. All right, we are turning the corner, and I am going to ask you the fast five questions. Go ahead and answer intuitively because I see that you're very intuitive, innately how you would answer, okay? What is your idea of perfect happiness?
Oh, choose happy no matter what. Choose if happiness is a choice. And so I think it's choosing.
I love it. What is your greatest extravagance?
Oh my goodness. All of a sudden I'm like, I don't think I'm extravagant enough. I should do some extravagant thing. Or else I should say, this is a humbling thought that is coming through me. I've been blessed with a life of extravagance to the degree where I've taken it for granted.
Mm,
Travel. I just got back from a 3 week in Israel where, so for me, seeing the world and appreciating it has been, I now gratefully realize because of your powerful question, has been a habit of extravagance that maybe has been taken for granted. So thank you for that.
I love that. If you weren't an entrepreneur, Victoria, what would you be doing as a career?
I would be an entrepreneur, non-optional.
And how? I believe the same thing. I would have answered the exact same way. Okay, number 4, what would you consider your greatest achievement?
My kids. I can't take credit for my kids. They are who they are, and they would have been regardless of what I've done. But they're the two people that have grown me the most into the person that I am.
That's beautiful. And Victoria, after all is said and done, what do you want your legacy to be?
She taught people that it was possible.
That's beautiful. Beautiful and so appropriate for the possibility coach. So Victoria, how do people find out more about what you do and how you can help them so that they can also live in possibility?
I think what comes to mind is that we are putting on a gorgeous free masterclass that's called Manifest Miracles. It's free. It's a free masterclass. So if you go to manifestmiracles.me, and there's a reason for why me, because it's little m big E, because all of us are mortal and eternal,
Mm,
matter and energy, manifesting and expanding. And so manifestmiracles.me, and I believe it's going to be an incredible gift for somebody who's listening right now.
that's brilliant. So manifestmiracles.me. You can also find it in the show notes over on our podcast show notes. Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your brilliance, your purpose, and how you are really showing what's possible when you have the right perspective on what we want, right? Finding that peace and purpose and really achieving what we're looking for. So thank you. Very needed in this time. And I so appreciate you being here.
Patty, thank you. And I will be quoting your bug busters all over Kingdom Come. That was my golden takeaway. Let's all follow Patty
Oh,
and
that's good.
become
Yeah.
real bug busters. Buster, I loved it. I loved it. Thank
I
you.
did. I've written emails about it. I'm like, enough with the butts, banish the butt, bust the butt, like all of it. We can't say it enough. So I'm glad to pass it on, do it, and broadcast it widely. It's so needed. Thank you.
Thank you.